Welcome back to the Eye on College Basketball Podcast on CBS Sports Network. There will be bigger games on this weekend's schedule than Arkansas at Kentucky, but I don't think there's going to be a more interesting scene in college basketball, and maybe not in any sport in America, than the scene we're going to have on Saturday when Arkansas visits Kentucky. It will, of course, be John Calipari's first trip back to Rupp Arena as the visiting coach after he left the program following last season after 15 years. Norlander, two questions. I think they can be answered different ways. How do you think John Calipari is going to be treated inside Rupp Arena this weekend? And how do you think John Calipari should be treated inside Rupp Arena this weekend?
I think the Kentucky fan base will, for the most part, treat him well. I don't think you're going to get more than a smattering of boos and jeers. What's interesting is Kentucky's got a game, and we'll get to this in the next segment, but they've got a tough game upcoming here. Arkansas does not play again until Saturday, and both these teams could enter this matchup in places where, neither fan base wanted to be. Arkansas for sure. I mean, Arkansas has lost 6 of 7. It's got 1 win in the league. And John Calipari is not bringing in a team that anyone thought he would be bringing in to Rupp Arena as recently as 2 months ago. Just, Arkansas is not remotely an NCAA tournament team. It's one of the biggest letdowns in the country, and it's a borderline disaster there at this point. Kentucky, meantime, needs to, in order to avoid a real slide here, needs to figure out a way shorthanded to beat Tennessee on Tuesday night to avoid going into this game losers of 3 in a row. And so the temperature of the room could be affected a little bit by the state of optimism with Kentucky's fan base as it heads into this game, because if you lose the game against Tennessee, then suddenly it takes on even more urgency, in addition to just, the fact that Calipari's coming back to the building. This is the only time, by the way, these teams are meeting this season. Kentucky does not have to travel to Fayetteville, and they may well not wind up meeting in the SEC tournament. So this is the one and only meeting since Calipari left there. But I think it'll be more than a golf clap, but it won't be I don't think it'll be a standing ovation from everyone in the building, and they'll mostly treat him right. It's a fast Parrish. His time there is, I mean, you really could write a couple books about it in terms of how relevant he made Kentucky just about every month of every season for a variety of reasons. The amount of pros he brought in, the fact that he only walked away with 1 national title, which all things considered is a letdown for as hard as it is to win a national championship. The fact he only got 1. Now, he got close a few times. He had a team that got to the Final Four without a loss and then got knocked off by Wisconsin in 2015. So there's a lot of there. Beyond the crowd response, personally, I'm interested to see I know what Mark Pope's going to say. I can already picture the stuff he's going to say before and after the game, provided Kentucky fans don't go out of their minds and Pope feels a need to apologize on behalf of them. I'm more interested to see how open and emotions on his sleeve Calipari is heading in, or then even afterward, and what he gets there. Yeah, I agree with you. There's going to be a lot better games, but from a scene perspective, and just we gotta tune in and watch, see what happens here. That's the place to be on Saturday.
I think it's going to be more positive than negative, and I believe that it should be. I'm not a big believer in booing people who used to do great things for you, or hating them, unless, of course, the circumstances dictate it. Like Kevin Durant leaving Oklahoma City for Golden State. The first time he comes back to OKC as a visitor, if you want to let him have it, that makes sense to me. But this ain't that. John Calipari did not want to leave Kentucky. I know he voluntarily left, but he got nudged out the door. This was not his plan for the way his career would end. I promise you, he always imagined retiring at Kentucky and then being in Lexington ambassador for the school, living there, popping into games, basically being Mike Krzyzewski, being what Mike Krzyzewski is at Duke for Kentucky basketball. That's what he thought he was going to be. But it got so bad that awkward and uncomfortable that he decided it was best for his family and his career to get out of there. So he did.
It got toxic, Parrish. I mean, let's be honest. It got to a level of toxicity that I don't think he could bear it much anymore anyway.
That's right. But he didn't want this. And then I think the way both of these seasons have unfolded will play a role in the reception. If Arkansas was coming in here ranked third in the country and Kentucky was sitting here on the wrong side of the bubble, then I think he'd get booed like crazy. But given that Arkansas is getting beat up every game and Kentucky is doing well under Mark Pope, and like this is what Kentucky fans said they wanted, they got it. It's going well for you. It's not going well for him. And either way, this is a man who was, responsible for NCAA tournament losses to St. Peter's and Oakland. I got it. He did go to 4 Final Fours with your school. He did win a national championship for your school. Beyond that, over a span of 15 years, he gave you and your loved ones, if you're a Kentucky fan, some of the best memories, some of the best days and nights you've ever had from a sports perspective. I would imagine that would be worthy of a positive reception. How about this? If I were a Kentucky fan and my sons were with me at this game this weekend, I would tell them we're going to applaud John Calipari because, man, we didn't like everything. Certainly didn't like how bad it got at the end. But that guy, he did look up here in the arena. Look at these banners. That guy's responsible for some of these. We're gonna treat him as somebody who's responsible for some of these. I don't know if everybody in that arena feels that way, but I think most probably do. And I think that's probably more of what you'll hear than not. As always, we'll see. But yes, on Saturday, that's the place to be, the place to have your eyes and your ears. How will John Calipari get treated inside Rupp Arena? I'm certain we'll be talking about it on Sunday